All right. Hi, guys. My name is Kelsey Kernstein. This is Courting the Truth, and today we're going to be talking about the Christina Formella case. I'm super excited about this. Lots of eyes and attention on this. I'm joined with my good friend, Chelsea Smith. She's been an attorney. She has an expertise in criminal law. We're going to talk to her in just a second, but first, let's kind of break down this case. Let me give you kind of an overview of what this case what has happened in it. There's, of course, lots of different sides. There's the victim side, and then there's Christina Formella's defense argument. So let's break that down, and then we'll get to Chelsea. And then for those of you that are joining on the podcast, just a heads up, I've got TikTok over here. So some people are joining in on TikTok. So if you see me glancing over this way, I want to take their questions on TikTok. And then I also am, of course, taking your questions here. So at the end of the show, we'll be able to answer all of your questions. I'll be able to ask Chelsea what she's thinking on those particular questions that you have, and we'll be able to break them down. Okay, so let's talk about the case. 30-year-old Christina Formella, she has been accused of sexually abusing a 15-year-old student of hers. She's a special education teacher. She also is a soccer coach, and it sounds like this alleged victim was seeing her because he had a collarbone injury. And this was a soccer coach for him, it sounds like, and also it was because of his collarbone injury. And these would be tutoring sessions before school would start. Real quick, I just want to glance over here at TikTok. Oh, here we go. We're live again. And so this happened, apparently this happened 2 years ago, allegedly. It sounds like most recently the mother was buying a new phone for her son. That is when these text messages popped up, these really quite incriminating, damning text messages. I'm going to get to that in just a second. But then the mother and the victim went to the police station and filed a report. The text messages that were found read this, and I want to show them on the screen as well as read them to you. So one second, let me just find them here. So they're there on the screen, and this is what they read. The student said, "I love you so much, Mama." Formella said, "I love you so much, baby. Even though this morning was short, it was perfect." The student says, "I know, baby, it was perfect. Baby, so perfect." Formella says, "I love having sex with you." The student allegedly said, "I know, baby, I love it so much. It feels so good. It's so passionate. It's so intimate. It's so perfect." Again, allegedly, this victim at the time was 15 years old. This was back in 2023. This is 2 years later that it sounds like the mother allegedly found these text messages that were on her son's phone. So they went to the police station. They filed a report. Then what happened is Christina Formella gets arrested, and I want to show the arrest video. So we'll take that live on screen.
You don't have anything on you? You can just grab whatever you need.
Whatever I need?
Yeah, whatever you need, like your phone, your purse, go ahead and grab it.
Is she going somewhere? Or?
Yeah, we're going to explain everything to you guys, so go ahead and turn around for me.
Excuse me, is my husband coming with?
Yes, yeah, he's taking his phone number down. We're staying in touch with him. We're just going to Downers Grove, so 10 minutes away.
No, I know, but I really would prefer that my husband's with me.
Of course.
Am I in trouble? Like, I'm so lost right now.
Sure you don't want a tissue or something?
I'm feeling I'm gonna throw up.
You want a bag?
Yes, please.
All right.
As you can see there, you guys, that is brutal. I don't want to show you this because police found an alleged memoir on the notes section of her phone. And it's more damning evidence, alleged evidence. So let me read it to you. And Chelsea in a second is going to help us break this down too. But it partly reads, "I went back and screenshotted everything. Every single time that I said we should break up until after the wedding and after you graduated, and every single effing time you came back and convinced me it would be fine. You ruined us. I warned you that we never should have started dating a long effing time ago, and you gaslit me and convinced me it was fine." It goes on to read, "I'm effing mad. I let a 16-year-old F with me like that. In the end, we both lost. You lost the girl who would have stuck with you through thick and thin." She later wrote in this alleged memoir manifestations, really going on to say that she was hoping that the boy would reach back out to her. Well, she told police in her interview with them that this was her relieving her anxiety, that any part of the sexual parts of this memoir section or this notes section in her phone, that this was meant for her husband, the sexual parts, and that she was relieving her anxiety. She also said that this alleged victim was stalking her, blackmailing her, that would get onto her phone and then send these text messages to himself, get through the password and then send them to himself, saying that she never wrote those text messages to him. She's also saying that people come after her because she is good looking. She said that her husband was aware of the situation, but it sounds like when the husband was questioned, allegedly, he said that he wasn't aware of this alleged victim student. It sounds like they were college sweethearts. They got married in, I believe, August of last year. And when the victim met with police, he told them this. It sounds like that this sexual relationship happened also in the classroom before school. It also sounds like Formella allegedly would send these flirty text messages, according to the court documents, to him through the school's messaging app, and then led to them getting each other's phone numbers. It led to them FaceTiming and a full-fledged relationship, according to the court documents. It also says that they last spoke, which is really interesting, February of 2024, according to the alleged victim. And that they both last year in February, both acknowledged that the relationship was wrong. To break all of this down, because I know so many of you have questions, I have questions. I'm fascinated by all of this and how you can, even as an attorney, build a defense argument with all of this evidence against her. I'm going to be joined with Chelsea Smith. She's a good friend of mine. She is an employment attorney, but also has an expertise in criminal law. And, Chelsea, first, I just kind of thank you so much for coming on the show today. But I first want to ask you, does this defense argument, does it have any legs to stand on?
I mean, I guess there's always a chance. I think it's insane. I also think that, her narrative in her notes and then the text messages calling her mama, I mean, pretty gross. I don't think, if I'm a juror, I think it's a joke, but crazier things have happened. So I guess there's a chance.
What do you think the likelihood that this goes to trial or she takes a plea deal? And how does that work? I mean, I guess what confuses me, let's say the victim gets scared, right? We've seen this happen before and they want to drop the case. What would that even look like? What are all the possibilities of what could happen here?
So I actually don't think that would be up to the victim. They take into consideration what the victim would want. I mean, as I understand it, but that would actually be up to the prosecutor on whether or not they would drop the case. And I don't see that happening. This is getting a ton of attention. It's getting national media attention. People seem really fired up about it, and rightly so. So I don't see the case getting dropped at any point. I think that it will probably be tried. And a plea deal also, I kind of doubt it. It's so high profile, and it's involving a student, a teacher that's in a position of power. It's bad.
It is crazy, the amount of evidence that the prosecution has, alleged evidence. Do you think that the jury will buy that this was stalking, that this was blackmail? Also, in situations like this, does the defense have certain little, tidbits that they're going to hold on before they bring it to trial?
I mean, potentially they can, tweak their narrative, but there's some facts that we can't argue against. We've got the notes on her phone. We have that her husband already said that he didn't know of this person, except he knew he was, I think, a soccer player, but he didn't know about the relationship or that he was allegedly stalking her. Her notes to me doesn't look like he's stalking her. If anything, I would say she's the one that's more of the aggressor in the relationship. And you just look at the age. She's clearly the aggressor. She's, 28 years old. He was 15. There's no excuse. So, I mean, there are good lawyers out there that can spin things and, tweak things and create a narrative that's, a little more palatable for a juror. But here, I don't see it happening.
How much time is she looking at when it comes to prison time?
Okay, so one of the charges is an assault charge. And if it's found that they had actual sex, then that's going to carry, I think, 15 years. And then the abuse charges carry 7 years apiece. So 15 plus 14, we get to 29. So I think it would be 29 years. But that how it would work, they could find her guilty. She could serve 29 years, but then she could actually be sentenced and serve, say, 10 with and be on probation for 4, something like that. So just because you're found guilty of all 3 charges doesn't mean you're going to have to serve the full max sentence for all 3. So, I think 4 years, 5 years, something like that is probably what we're looking at. But you never know. Tennessee has recently made child rape a capital crime.
Wow.
And I hope other states follow. I think to me, that's the one thing a kid really can't get over from that kind of trauma. But that to me is telling on where society is. Hopefully that's, a movement that we're going to see.
It's interesting in this memoir section, it reads things like, I said we shouldn't have done this, but you persisted. You wanted to continue. I said we shouldn't have, of course the jury would see something like this. Is it likely that the jury then thinks that, it seems like she's been the aggressor, right? Because she's 28, but it also sounds like he was also the very persistent one.
Oh, I don't know. I don't find her that sympathetic. She's beautiful and she's using it as an excuse. And, she also says, I let a 16-year-old mess with me. Let's let that sink in. She's flipping the script here. And in her sick head, she's blaming the child. She was his teacher. To me, that's crazy. There's a chance she could get out of this, but given the nature of the case and the prosecutor, I just don't see it.
Okay, so I also want to show you guys this. This is them walking into the hearing where she pleaded not guilty on the charges against her. And then I want to talk to Chelsea about, there's been a lot of discussion on her husband standing by her side, why he would do this. We'll speculate on that in just a second. So let's watch this together.
What happened with the student? Did you rape the student? Why? Help us understand. Anything you want to say?
Oh, brutal. I think so many people have questions on why would the husband, right? This first hearing, they're side by side walking, and it was the attorney that is consoling her. It's interesting because the very last hearing where they decided that there'll be no cameras in the courtroom, that they were walking hand in hand. Most recently, a week ago on Friday, hand in hand, full, you could see the wedding rings right there. Why would a husband stand by his spouse's side like this?
I'm not sure. I really think he's lost it. If I'm him, I've already filed for divorce and I'm done. They have no children. They've briefly been married. I would say this is a huge mistake. You're not who I thought you were. Bye. Because she's seriously got some issues. I think the rate for people who are convicted of, child sexual related crimes, it's like 98 or 99%. It's something insane. He needs to run. I don't know why he's doing it. I know some have hypothesized that it could potentially be financially related, but they're young. He's dressed modestly in the pictures I see. They don't look like people who are super loaded, flamboyantly living. So that kind of would surprise me. I just think maybe he's really naive and maybe he loves her. I don't know.
Yeah, it is interesting because it sounds like they've been together since, they were 20. So it has been 10 years. So I can't even imagine what he is going through. Of course, lots of speculation online. I guess my other question would be this, the Daily Mail has kind of posted that he has this Italian manufacturing food company that his family owns, that it's been in the family within the last 100 years. Is there a potential chance that his family money could be affected by this?
Oh, I don't know. Potentially. Right on its face, no, because his family's business is not a party to what's going on. If she is sued civilly, they're not going to be a party to that. But if she's sued civilly and found liable for, a significant amount of money, who's going to pay it? Does she and her husband have that kind of money? Probably not. Also, it's really bad PR. I mean, their business and their last name, is out there in the public with all of this, and it's not good. So it is bad PR. And in that respect, they may lose profitability with their business. But as far as a really direct impact, I don't see it. And if they did pay money for any kind of, liability that she may have, that is not something that would be required of them. That would just be something that they would do if they were willing to. And if the husband has an interest in the company and she's found liable, then potentially, but I think that's a stretch. I don't see their business being directly impacted.
What is the likelihood that this moves into a civil suit where she is sued for punitive damages, or that even the school district is held liable here?
I think fairly high. I
Wow.
would put it up above, 85, 90% if I had to put a percent to it. Because, they may get some satisfaction out of the criminal case, but ultimately it won't result in any money. And who's going to have the ability to get the money? It's going to be a civil suit. And they would probably sue the school district and Christina both.
And when we're talking money, what is reasonable in a case like this?
I have no idea. Several $100,000, I would think.
And if she doesn't have the money to pay for something like this, does that mean that she ends up paying for it the rest of her life? Or what happens in a situation like that?
Yeah, so it's a process. They would get a judgment against her, and then they would have to collect on the judgment. And so, you could get a piece of her paycheck for however long until she's satisfied the judgment.
Crazy.
But
Okay.
it's a long process, and it's going to require a separate lawsuit that will take time. It's also going to take an emotional toll because the victim's going to have to relive everything during a second lawsuit. And my very first case out of law school, it involved, it was a stepfather and a stepdaughter. And the stepdaughter ultimately sued him for acts the same as what's going on here. And for her to relive that, she was vomiting and, while we were going through depositions, it was horrible. So, it's not as sexy as it sounds. We can civilly sue her and uncover millions of dollars. It's going to be really traumatic for him to have to go through that kind of process again.
I'm sure, and I can imagine with all the publicity on the case. I know the parents have already spoken about how much publicity there is and how just concerning this is for them. And also, Christina Formella and her family. I think the other thing to point out that's so interesting is you see them walk into the hearing and she's got his family there. We've seen the dad, his dad, and then we've seen him holding her hand, but I have not seen her family, which is maybe they're inside the courtroom, but they're not walking into the courtroom with her, which is interesting.
An observer would see that as they're not standing by her. Which I don't know. I've seen a photo of her family. I've seen photos of his family. Her parents look like really normal, nice people, on its face. So I don't know how to read into that, but it is interesting to me.
Let's go back to why the school district could be sued. What are the reasonings? What could they have potentially done wrong here or been held liable for?
So Christina would have been an employee of the school, and it would be their duty to make sure that students are safe and in a safe environment. And so, they could potentially be found to be negligent for employing her. And, these things happen. They probably happen even a lot more than we know. And I think that society has normalized these things to some extent and that they're very wrong. So, and also, kids don't often report it. Like this kid, he may have never reported it if his mother hadn't found the text messages on his phone.
But then there's a part of me that thinks he could be telling all of his friends, right? You're 15, you've got, right, all these hormones flowing through you. Like he might be like proud of himself. I don't know and that's what so many people in my comment section, when I report on this story, so many of the men are like, it is fascinating the different angles that people feel about this story.
I mean, she could have also been like, listen, I could get into major trouble here. I could lose my job. Or if I get into major trouble, then, I won't be able to see you at school. I mean, she probably had him wrapped around her finger for, a period of this. And I'm sure he was scared.
Yeah, it's going to be so interesting to see how this moves forward. And I think that's why so many people are watching this case, because partly for me watching it, it's the fact that she has this dream life. This seems to be this dream husband. And right, we don't know what things are like behind closed doors. And then you think to yourself, why would you allegedly go for the student at the school and that you're tutoring? That's 15.
Well, I think that she's sick. I don't think a normal person does that. I mean, it's pretty crazy to me.
It is shocking. Yeah. Just reading more and more. And honestly, the memoir, when I got my hands on reading that memoir, I was like, oh my God, I don't know how you get out of this now. The text messages is one thing, but the memoir.
For sure. And the prosecutor, I don't know the prosecutor personally, but I have a friend and colleague who does. And he's good. He's really good. And he's also got daughters. We've got a female judge, and, I don't see the prosecutor really taking a plea here. I think also the political ramifications of a plea are going to be high. I think that he's going to handle it seriously, and I think he's going to earn the public's respect here. He's not a guy who I think is chasing headlines. He's chasing justice. What she's done is wrong, and it needs to show.
Oh, I think all eyes will be on a trial like this. Well, okay, that's my other question. I think if this goes to trial, right, no camera is likely to be allowed in the courtroom. We'll have reporters watching it inside the courtroom, then telling, the people watching the news what's happening inside. What is the likelihood that she says down the road she pleads guilty and this doesn't go to trial? I don't know what's worse, that this goes to trial. Where is she going to allegedly get more or less time?
So that would be, she would go to trial, and then they would find her guilty of some or all counts or none. And, each of those items that she's charged with carry, up to 15 years, up to 7 years, up to 7 years. And the abuse charges are eligible for probation. The assault charges are not. And so, you go through that process, and then the judge would be the one, I think, who would sentence her. And, I don't practice in Illinois, so don't take me to the bank on that, but I think that would be the actual process there. I do know that, generally speaking, women receive lighter sentences than men, and they're twice as likely to avoid prison. I think when a victim is male, sentences are even lighter. And I think that courts and juries perceive female offenders as less harmful, more emotional, and they often blame the boy as a willing participant despite this abuse, which carries serious mental and emotional damages for victims. But it's a hot topic. I mean, how many documentaries do we have about Mary Kay Letourneau, whatever her name was? I mean, that was insane.
It was insane and had all of our eyes on it. I mean, I even remember, and I can't remember how old I was, but it is interesting because I will say this, there are other cases going on just like this one, but this is the one that has caught people's eyes and that people are all over it. And I think it's because people are watching this going, wow, she had this dream life at home. This seemed to be amazing husband from an amazing family. Of course, we don't know inside closed doors, but why would you just drop it all for a student who's 15? I think the other question that a lot of people have, they're really kind of angry that the fact that she's getting paid, why would she be on paid leave? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so that's typical. I'm not saying it's right, and I understand the outrage, but often when, an employer has an issue, they have to investigate the issue. So I'm sure they realized that there was some kind of interaction, and I don't know how that went down, if they found out through law enforcement or what. Likely that's how it worked. And at that point, they probably put her on paid administrative leave so they could do an investigation and kind of see what they needed to do. You can also put people on unpaid leave. They very well could have done that, but maybe they have a policy in their handbook and it says this is the way we handle these situations.
Chelsea, how does somebody, like, let's say she does serve prison time, she's found guilty. How does somebody like this go on to live the rest of their life? Like, how do you go to find a job? How do you go to, even any other spouse that comes along the way, they're going to look into this and have a lot of questions about it.
But yeah, and she's going to be a registered sex offender.
Yes.
That's a lifetime stigma label, and maybe well deserved here, right? But that's going to stay with her forever.
Is there any situation, we've kind of talked about this a little bit, where the victim could say, change his story? Maybe it wasn't as bad. Maybe they weren't physical. Maybe he decides to, take the stand and say, it wasn't really allegedly as bad as it seems.
Sure. Absolutely, he could. But the prosecutor is then going to take, the text messages, the narrative that she wrote in her diary, and, whatever information they were able to get in the victim's interview. And he's going to say, but you said it was this, this, and this. And she said it was this, this, and this. And so, I kind of think that's hard to overcome.
Can you give me just give me a ballpark on how much it could cost for attorney fees? Like if they had to a trial, what is she looking at that she could have to pay? And what's the chances that she even has that money to pay these attorneys?
So I'm not even sure on this case if she has a public defender or a private attorney. If she has a public defender, she's not paying anything, I don't think. If she has a private, and that's an attorney who works for the state but is assigned to people because everyone has a right to counsel. So if she has a public defender, then I don't think she'll be out anything. If she has a private attorney, we're talking big bucks. I would expect at least 6 figures.
Wow. I can't even imagine. She's 30 years old, kind of just starting her life. She's been a teacher. I can't even imagine just the thoughts of how much an attorney could cost. On TikTok over here, I'm looking. Miriam is asking this. I'm wondering if there's witnesses or cameras at school.
You never know. Witnesses, probably not. I'm guessing they were in her classroom with the door shut. Cameras, I know that a lot of schools have them in hallways, but not in classrooms. So, you could, if there's a camera in the hallway, they could potentially see, him going in, her going in, no one else in the room, and then both of them exiting together at different times. So not that that's going to show any concrete evidence, but it would prove that they were in the room together, which, we already know he was getting tutored by her. I think they've both admitted to that fact.
Yes. According to both of their alibis. Yes. I do want to go ahead and, if you guys have any questions for those of you that are watching, make sure to ask me both on TikTok and here on the podcast. I just want to bring up some of the comments up that people are saying. Let me see here. Cynthia Sweezy saying they should have cameras everywhere besides the bathrooms. I honestly think nowadays they probably should have cameras everywhere with everything we see happening in the school systems. Then she goes on to say, this is Elenator. She says, maybe not all of them and on other platforms as well. Any other questions that you guys might have? I'm just reviewing on TikTok because I know some of you have been writing me. Some of you
Kelsey-
saying yeah, tell me.
Oh, can we pull up the picture of her family?
Yes.
It shows her family and his family.
Yes.
To me, all this chatter about, their family. I mean, look at her parents. They're holding hands. They look super sweet. They're dressed nice. You've got his parents. They look pretty normal to me too. I don't know if those are sisters on the side or not. He's not in some fancy GQ outfit. He looks cute and appropriate, but his clothing is normal. I would say these all look like pretty normal people. So the story that they're sticking with her for money, I mean, I don't know that I buy it really.
It's interesting. You have some people online saying, well, they had this really nice wedding. It was in the Amalfi Coast, and it's unclear if it would have been her family that would have paid for that, right? You never know when it comes to who's paying for the wedding. And it sounds like they had two weddings, one in the States and then one also abroad. And that is the question, right? We don't really know. It was interesting when the Daily Mail put out that article of the pictures of them outside of this Italian food manufacturing company. And I know that I read that it's been in the family for the last 100 years. But you said that it's unlikely that they would be able, if she is sued, that they would be able, say the victim's family would be able to get to any of that money.
Not unless her husband has an interest and they didn't have a prenup. If they're super loaded, they had a prenup, I don't know any families that have access to lawyers with a lot of wealth that aren't going to insist on a prenup if that's the situation. And I don't know that that's the situation. I actually would say that it's probably not the situation. To me, these look like people who are, middle class, maybe upper middle class, working people that have a successful business. And I doubt she has an interest in the business. So it would be her husband's. And, so I kind of think that's a jump. I don't think the business is going to directly suffer from this, if I'm guessing.
I can't even imagine. This is just a terrible situation. You have Justin Tackett saying if they gave her a plea deal, which Chelsea has already said that it's unlikely she thinks that there will be a plea deal, that she would be better off taking it. Other people saying she will not win this case.
I mean, I don't think she will either. Let's talk about the prosecutor here. 35-year career prosecutor with 87 felony jury trials. And then I don't remember the number, but a significant number of his trials are for murder, first-degree murder. He is, he's been elected 3 times. He's the father of daughters. He's going to stick it to her, if I'm guessing, and he's probably really good.
Crazy. I can't even imagine what she is thinking at this point. When would a trial take place? Is it, from my understanding, it's usually typically a year out, but what is it from your expert opinion?
It's going to be a process. So I think the next hearing is in June, and I don't know what that's for, but it'll take a while, and I would guess a year. But I'm really not sure. And attorneys are good at trying to delay things too. So if they want to make it take longer, they maybe can. And you mentioned, I wonder what she's thinking. I think in the end of that first video you played after she's interviewed and she gets back in the police car and she's holding her face, I think she's thinking she screwed up. But, one may wonder, why did you think it was okay to do it in the first place?
I will say this. I do have a couple teacher friends, and I think this is an interesting perspective. And this is what they've said. They said, it's fascinating when you're a teacher, you're a young person. So and this is not me trying to sympathize with her at all. But I think this is an interesting perspective because she said when you're teaching these younger people, high school students, they come onto you extremely hard. They make advances. They try every avenue. They try to get your number. They try to make advances wherever they can. And she said, the couple of teachers that I've spoken to, they've said it's confusing because you're a young person yourself. You're 25 and you see these children in front of you, but they don't look like children. They almost look like your age. And I just thought that was a really interesting perspective, right? There is no right in what she's done in this situation, but it's an interesting thought when you think of it like that.
Okay, I disagree.
I love it.
I substitute taught when I was in college.
Okay.
And I actually substitute teach if my schedule permits, which is not very often these days, at my kids' school. If they get desperate for a sub, I'll sub. I do not think either when I was 21, 22 subbing or now at age 39, I've never thought that the kids were in my age group, that they were my peers. They've also never flirted with me. Either Christina's much better looking than I am, or I'm a total witch. I don't know.
You're beautiful.
But, I don't think students are into me at all. And I'm thankful for that. That's good. So I think if that dynamic is present, then, you know, I'm not saying your friend necessarily, but I'm saying maybe Christina was flirty. Maybe she's the one who led him to think this dynamic was okay, you know? And a 15-year-old kid, you know, I have a 12-year-old son and he's still pretty little. Like, he really likes his mom still. He is pretty innocent. My daughter, we have twins and she's 12 and she seems a little older than he does at this age, but they're still pretty little. And this guy was 15. My kids will be 13 in August. So like a little over 2 years older than they are right now. And I can't fathom that. I think that's insane.
It is insane when I think of it. And I know your kids. And so I can't even honestly, that just absolutely disgusts me. Right. I think of your children, they seem so young and so, you know, young and small. And this was just a 15-year-old. It was an interesting perspective to hear that from people that I know that have been teachers, just trying to understand what goes through somebody's brain, to ever even get to this point that this could ever even be okay. And the fact of the matter is we see it so often. This is just a case getting a ton of attention, right? We've seen it. I mean, there's another case going on just as we speak. And it was a teacher who became very good friends. I was going to put the photo up, but she became very good friends with the parents. The parents let her children, all of them, sleep over at her house. And then the little sister comes forward and, yeah, I would see my brother. He would sleep in the room with all of us. Then I would find out that he would be in her room when I would wake up in the morning. And the age difference between those two is even more. I can't even think of it, but I believe he was only like 11 at the time, and he got her pregnant when he was 13, and she was, I think, 26.
Oh my word.
Mm-hmm. And he has come forward, and I wish I had the picture up, but he has come forward and said, I was the aggressor. There should be no lawsuit against her. There should be no criminal allegations against her. Drop all of them. I was the one that really led all of this. Yeah, I wish I brought the picture up, but it's fascinating. Cynthia Sweesey is saying this. I'm sure she has conditions on bond. Do you think that's, I do. I think I believe that she has conditions on bond.
She does. I don't remember what they are, but, oh yes, I do. Part of them, part of the conditions were that she couldn't be in a school or near a school or students. I think it was something like that. I don't remember exactly what they were, but yes, that's correct.
I'm trying to see do you guys have any other questions to ask Chelsea? This, of course, for those of you watching on TikTok, you're like, what is going on? Because all they can see is me. You can watch us on this podcast. It's on YouTube. I put the link in a teaser video, and any questions that you have, please ask me right now. And I can go ahead and ask Chelsea. Is this the school teacher? Yes, this is the school teacher. Sorry, I'm missing some of these little questions on here. And then somebody else is showing the YouTube link. Yes, thank you. And please join me on YouTube, you guys, if you're seeing this, and make sure you hit the subscribe button on all pages. And again, this is Chelsea Smith. She is an attorney. She has an expertise in criminal law, and she also is an employment attorney, which I thought, honestly, when I thought about this from all angles, Chelsea, what I thought was so helpful having you on is you can see it from so many different perspectives, especially how the school district could potentially be held liable here.
Yeah, so that's typically the role I'm in. I've never defended any criminals. Child predators are definitely not for me. And I would say, generally speaking, any type of criminal is really not for me. I'm normally on the business side, the employer side, dealing with these issues. And I can tell you, my clients are always, like, we want to take this super seriously. This is, not what we stand for. And, step one is always anyone accused of any level of a situation like this, we call the police immediately and get them involved. But I have an interest in criminal law. I follow it. I read it. I go to Crime Con, total junkie. I have a degree in criminology. And so I find it fascinating. But I think really what we're looking at here, I think that she's got a problem. I think she's like a sexual deviant. I think if you're into kids and, aside from the fact that she's even married and her husband seems sweet and he's good looking. I mean, look at him. He's beautiful. She's beautiful. They're a darling couple. But aside from all that, why does a person engage in sexual acts or want to engage in sexual acts with a child? I mean, it's kind of like engaging in sexual acts with an animal. It's gross. You're not supposed to be attracted to that. And so something is wrong with her. And I hope she gets it figured out.
Me too. And I think it's, I think it's good that she's on paid leave. And I think it's good that, this is, of course, she can't go anywhere near the school. I believe that's one of the, I'm trying to look for the right language she used, but that is one of the indications on the bond. She can't go near the school. She can't, I can't remember what else. She can't go near the victim. It's like a couple of things that she's not able to do during this time. Hold on here. I'm just thinking if anybody has any other questions. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up with Chelsea, you guys. So please write in. I was actually wondering where my icons were because of surviving the survivor. Another person is asking, why risk your marriage?
Well, she thought she was going to get away with it. She didn't even know why she was getting in the cop car, and she gets in the car and she's like, oh my gosh. Well, she thought she was going to get away with it. She thought she had gotten away with it.
And it's just crazy to think where the story doesn't line up with her husband's story. Like all of the evidence that they have against her is just, I don't know. I think when so many people look at this case, they're like, why wouldn't she just try to plead guilty, try to take some sort of deal? And at what point, Chelsea, what is the likelihood that you think that she pleads guilty and this doesn't go to trial or this goes to trial?
Oh, I think that it's a 0% she'll plead guilty. She thought she was going to get away with it in the first case, right? She's probably got some level of narcissism. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, but just looking from the outside, something's not right with her. She thought she was going to get away with it. And people that have that mindset, they think they're going to get away with it until the very end. And so I don't see her pleading guilty. Anything could happen. But and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I don't think so. I think we're looking at a full-blown trial and, evidence on both sides.
Crazy. I definitely will be watching. In fact, it makes me even want to go up to Chicago and even report on it so I can be inside the courtroom. Just even watching this, it's just, oh my God. It's fascinating on all realms. And of course, let's hope that this victim gets justice, and obviously an alleged victim until, right, she's proven guilty. All right, you guys, thank you so much for coming on, Chelsea. That was awesome interview. I knew it was going to be great. And I'm just checking to see if there's any other questions people have. Cynthia Sweezy said this: she had to have known when she got into the cop car she was playing stupid. Ellen Ader says this: maybe she didn't think she did anything wrong. Which is also, and this is another question that I had, and I don't know the answer to this. Are teachers trained, right? Is this, you know, I imagine there's like a manual and a pamphlet and they're trained, I'm sure, HR rules on what you can and can't do. And there's no certain, right? If there's a platform that the district is using to text on, right? I'm sure the district doesn't want to be held liable. So they are probably, and don't you think, informing their teachers what they can and cannot say on these apps?
Yes, absolutely. I think she definitely knows that it was wrong. I think that, you know, that my kids, let's go back to that, 12-year-olds, they would know this is wrong. I don't even think she needs a formal education or training over what's appropriate workplace or life interactions, you know, having these sort of interactions with a 15-year-old. I think that we all know it's wrong. And I think that when she got in the cop car, she probably didn't really realize that she was going to get caught.
Crazy, especially 2 years later. And it's you know, and you haven't heard any mentions of it again, and you haven't seen the victim since February of 2024. Oh, this person is asking, if the student was 17, would this still be a crime?
I think the law, that Illinois law, I think the age is to 17.
Okay.
I'm not absolutely positive that, but I think so.
You guys are so nice. People are saying, thank you, Kelsey and Chelsea. That's right. Our names rhyme. Oh my God. Awesome. So many people just saying nice things. Okay. I'm going to wrap it up. But you guys, thank you so much for watching us today. This has been awesome. Chelsea, thank you for coming on. I'll call you after this. I so appreciate it. And I will see you guys next week at 12 noon on Thursday. So I can't wait. And thank you. Bye, guys. Have a great day.